I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're talking to an amazing author by the name of Jerry Huerta. He has penned a powerful book. It is called Thy Kingdom Come, reevaluating the historicist's interpretation of the Revelation. This is a groundbreaking book that delves into contemporary history, progressive revelation, and Hebraic festivals to offer a fresh perspective on the book of Revelation. Join us right now as we explore the provocative connections between modern society and ancient prophecies. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Jerry, great to see you here today on Spotlight.
Thank you, Logan.
What inspired you to reevaluate the traditional interpretation of Revelation?
Well, I think I've always had a curiosity with the book of, scriptures and per se, but in particular prophecy, and specifically the book of Revelation. It always struck me with awe, some of these fantastic imagery that the book develops or illustrates, and that curiosity never left me. I started probably when I was early 20s, really delving into it, and it led me to write this book and some decades later.
What are some of the revelations that you found about the book of Revelation that are different from the traditional interpretations?
Well, actually, it goes back to a traditional interpretation. The Protestants, when they rose, the Reformation came about, they came up with this school of thought called historicism. Now, historicism has lost favor to what we have today is it's called futurism and preterism. The most popular today is futurism, and a lot of books and movies are based on this Left Behind series. Their ideas of how prophecy in the book of Revelation is to be interpreted and understood. But the historicism message has never gone away, and I do believe that it will ultimately be the one that's vindicated to the end. It's being vindicated right now with the fulfillment of a lot of prophecies right now. I can go in greater detail here on any other specific
questions. Absolutely.
Okay, well, the main thing that led me to historicism was understanding that it is the mediation of Christ. It is the revelation of Christ, and he mediates the New Testament, the New Covenant. And that's what differentiates it from the other schools of thought, like this Left Behind series. It has the idea that the Jews are going to be the one or the book actually is about the judgment upon the Jews when Christ returns. Now that would be going back to an idea of the Old Testament, old prophets, but that's not concerned in the mediation of Christ, because in the mediation of Christ there's neither Jew nor Greek. He doesn't specifically have a mediation separate from the house of Israel and the Gentiles. We are all one in Christ, and so the mediation that's occurring and the revelation that's occurring and what Christ is revealing in the book of Revelation concerns the new covenant people, the church. And that's what differentiates it from the Left Behind series, that school of thought, and the preterists, and the preterists believe that everything's already happened because the book of Revelation was about the Old Testament people in 70 AD when Christ first came. So that's what led me to choose the historicist point of view, and that's what I wrote my book about, reevaluating that and bringing it up to our contemporary times and what has happened in modern times.
Wonderful. Let's turn now to Hebraic festivals and the role they play in your new interpretation of the book of Revelation.
Well, the Hebraic festivals were had spring and autumnal festivals separated by 7 months. So there was 7 months in between the spring festivals and fall festivals, and then there was 7 festivals. So this idea of 7 was first brought about by these Hebraic ceremonies, and there's no equivocation that the book of Revelation has a series of sevens in it. So that's what led me to understand that in the historicist point of view, the seven churches represent seven epochs in between the first Advent and second Advent. And by no coincidence, that's what the Hebraic festivals bring forth, that there are 7 months in between the spring festivals and the fall festivals. Spring festivals were pertaining to Christ's first Advent, and the fall festivals pertain to his return and judgment. So we see that you can organize the book by using the Hebraic festivals to determine how that book is supposed to be interpreted and deciphered. So coming to that conclusion then that the final church is the time when the judgment occurs, you have to look at our times and see if it reflects what's happening in particularly what it says about the last church. And the last church says is that we are rich and increased with goods and think we have need of nothing. So it's talking about a market-driven society, and that's exactly what we are in today, and how the merchants of rose in our contemporary times. That really opens up the book. If you use those measuring sticks, the Hebraic festivals, and see the seven churches as representing those 7 months or seven periods in between the fall and spring festivals, then you will see the book and the illustrations opening up and the imagery making sense for what's happening today.
Absolutely. Can you explain the significance of the apocalyptic horsemen in relation to modern day commerce and society?
Right. Now, knowing that the four horsemen are going to be right forth during the time of the last church, then you can see that this white horse, the rider of the white horse, represents something similar to the image of Christ's return in Revelation 19. Christ returns on a white horse, and he returns as a conqueror and a ruler. Well, that's what it says about the white horse. Now, knowing that this is supposed to represent a period in our time, and there's a lot of support for this, the only illustrate can only represent what happened when the rise of Protestantism occurred in the form of Protestant missionary imperialism. Because where modern Protestant missionary imperialism rose, the market followed. Market penetration followed, and the change of our whole commerce system, so that we have today a world in which the church thinks it's rich and increased with goods and has need of nothing.
Yeah. What do you hope readers will gain from understanding the connections between Protestant missionary imperialism and biblical narratives?
Well, the biblical narrative is that judgment has always occurred on, and particularly on God's covenant people, because of their abuses in commerce and their abuse of their own brethren in labor, their exploitation of their own brethren to enrich themselves. This was always something that was dealt with by God in the Old Testament, and that was the continual apostasy with his people in the Old Testament covenant, is that they would imbalances would occur because they weren't obeying the divine mandates to suppress usury and debt. And when that occurred, the rich people rose over the poor people. They exploited them to enrich themselves. And then that led to God's judgment on them. And that's exactly what has occurred today with the rise of Protestantism, because it fostered the rise of secularism, in which it enriched the merchants. Then the nations enriched the merchants of the earth, and the exploitation of the poor occurring and the labor occurred. And I'm approaching this from any type of socialism, criticism from a socialism perspective, but by divine revelation and what the scriptures have to say about the inequities that occur when God's mandates are ignored and commerce proceeds on the basis of self-interest instead of promoting, the common good.
Really great analysis, Jerry. Great research on this book. The name of the book is Thy Kingdom Come. Reevaluating the Historicist's Interpretation of the Revelation. It is a groundbreaking book, as we mentioned. It delves into contemporary history, progressive revelation, and Hebraic festivals to offer a fresh perspective on the book of Revelation. It is an essential read. It's an amazing read. It is a powerful read. Jerry, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you for having me, Logan.
I appreciate your time. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time, this time until next time on Spotlight.